Want to impress people this summer? Because not only did you tailor an outfit to fit you perfectly, you also customized it. I got you. Let's start with turning a long sleeve button down into a short sleeve one. I'm SD, and if you're new and you're really tired of wearing clothes that don't fit you very well anymore, bro, you are in the right place. First things first, we gotta get our materials ready. We're gonna need a sewing machine, we're gonna need a measuring tape, we're gonna need some sewing pins, and we're gonna need some fabric scissors too. For the fabric scissors, make sure you don't just be going in your junk drawer in your house and grabbing a random pair of utility scissors that you use on everything, because you're not gonna get a smooth cut. Trust me, I did that in the beginning. Don't do that. I got my dress shirt all ready to rock right here. Now, the only thing we gotta figure out is, well, how long do we want this sleeve to be? Because if we put our sleeve down here, if it ends down here, well, that's gonna look pretty stupid. That's gonna be really long, isn't it? Well, what happens if we put it up here? Same thing. It's gonna be really stupid looking. It's gonna be way too short. So this is our shoulder seam running along right here. Well, what's the perfect length for our sleeve? Fear not, SD's got your back. What I did is I did all the hard work and all the leg work and all the measuring for you. What we got right here is this is a short sleeve dress shirt that I picked up at Target on clearance for like $12. And the sleeve on this shirt is the perfect length. So all we gotta do is transfer these measurements from this sleeve here to this sleeve down here. How do we do that? Well, let's grab our measuring tape and let's do just that. This is our shoulder seam right here. And this is the end of our sleeve right here. Well, look at the angle that they make. They end up making an angle like that. So we're not making a, what is this called? Like a rhombus or a parallelogram? Somebody help me out down in the comments. This would obviously be a perfect length or an even length for our sleeve. But since it goes like this, it's gonna be longer up here and it's gonna be shorter down here. How do we work around that? Well, I'm gonna show you. So what we're gonna do is we just have to measure from our dress shirt, our short sleeve dress shirt right up here. We gotta measure this measurement from the shoulder seam all the way down to the end of the sleeve. And what do we get? We get just about 9.5 inches. Now, you might be thinking that, okay, well, we gotta work around this, so we have to work around this angle, so do we have to measure this part here right in the middle, and do we have to measure the bottom? Well, no, we don't, because all we have to do now is transfer that exact measurement onto this sleeve down here. But hold on, don't get too far ahead of yourself, because see, here's what's going on. Yeah, this sleeve might be 9.5 inches long, but what do you got down here? This is the actual seam, or this is the stitch down here, but well, look, it's got tucked under fabric down here, so that's gonna add some an additional measurement to what we're working with, right? Yup, it is. So let's measure the end down here and see what we got. We have exactly 1 inch. So 9.5 inches from our shoulder seam all the way to the end of our sleeve here, and then we have an additional 1 inch for the folded up seam right under here, for the folded up fabric down here. We're gonna be marking 10.5 inches on our sleeve. What you wanna do is you want to make sure everything is even. Make sure everything is all in place where it needs to be. I don't know why I'm making that voice. It's kind of weird. Hopefully I remember to edit that part out, but let's grab our measuring tape and let's do, bingo, 9.5 inches. But whoa, what about that extra inch? We want to add that. So we're going to go down to 10.5 inches, because what we're going to do is this is where we're going to make our cut. We're gonna fold it under and we're gonna stitch it up. Whoa, hold on. You made sure to actually tailor your shirt first and throw some darts in the back of it, right? No? Well, wait till the end of this video too. I'll make sure to go ahead and do that, because there is no point in taking the sleeves and cutting them off and making them look great on your arms if the body of your dress shirt just looks like a big old hefty bag on you. Well, what do we do now? We got our spot, we're ready to rock, we're good to go, right? Well, we need to make a line going right across our shirt. Our angles are going, whoops, I kicked my light. Our angles are going like this. We want to make sure that we have a perfect 90-degree angle right here. And I'm going to take my measuring tape, and you can eyeball this. You would be very surprised at how well the human eye is able to just identify a perfect angle. And I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, yep, that looks like a perfect 90-degree angle. If it doesn't, just adjust accordingly. Oh man, wait for it. And I'm going to put a pin right down here, and then I'm gonna put a pin right at the bottom. Here's an optional step for you if you don't have sewing pins or you wanna just find another way to do this. Boom, look at that, Tailor's chalk. You can take a hard ruler like you would use in school, or even a book or anything, and you can just line it up right on the edge here, and you can draw a line. Boom, look at that. Now I have another line that I can follow much easier with my scissors. If you don't have Tailor's chalk, don't worry. When I started tailoring my own clothes, I used to use my daughter's sidewalk chalk. Use what it is that you have. So since I already drew a line with my Tailor's chalk right here, I'm gonna remove these pins. If you don't have Tailor's chalk and you're using safety pins or you're using sewing pins, you can just keep them in there. Just cut right up close next to them, as close as you can. And we're gonna cut, whoa, hang on. I'm gonna double check and I'm gonna ask you again. You're using hold on, right down here. You're using fabric scissors, right? Yeah? Okay, good. Whew, okay, good. For this edge right here, if you get it off just a smidgen, just a tad, if this line isn't perfect, do not sweat it, because since we're tucking it under, we're able to hide our imperfections a bit. When we tuck it under, we can pull it tight. It looks exactly like it would from the store, minus the stitch here. Ooh, look at that, good. Flip our shirt inside out. So let's grab our measuring tape and let's measure 1 inch to compensate for the tuck under, the tuck rule. All right, so we got 1 inch right here. So this is where we want our fabric to be folded in. Kind of tuck it under just like that. So that's 1 inch. So this is where I want my edge to end. Line that up right there. I'm gonna grab another sewing pin and I'm gonna pin it in place like this. Now that that's being held there, I can remove this original one. So now let's do the same thing. Let's fold it all under and pin it. All right, we got it all pinned up and we are good to go. Goody, I don't even know what that means. We're good to go. Let's go sew this bad boy. Here we go with this again. Where's my utility ladder? Seriously? Come on. All right, let's see. Maybe it's upstairs. Nope. Awesome. Yes. Bingo. Here we go. Ow. Whoa. All right. So I've got my machine all ready to rock and roll. It is good to go. All I did was I slid the end of my shirt right on the end of my machine, and your machine actually has a little attachment that comes off. It's removable so that you can do things like hem jeans, or you could fix your sleeves like we're doing in this tutorial. Now, when I pinned it up, I made sure that the pins were facing towards me in this direction so I can just pull them out, boop, just like that as I go along, instead of having to like kind of fidget with it and pull it out that way, and it's like, oh, that's annoying. I've got my machine set to make a straight stitch. It's gonna be 2.5 millimeters, which is gonna be a standard stitch like you would find it in the store. We are using a universal needle right up here, that bad boy right there. We're using some polyester thread because it's gonna be able to flex. And also a quick pro tip that I don't know if a lot of people know about. See these lines right here? These are called your seam guide. When I'm sewing, I'm not going to be staring at my needle. I'm gonna be looking right here. I'm gonna do my darndest to make sure that the edge of my shirt is lined up with these lines right here so that I know it's not lined up. That means my stitch isn't gonna be straight. If I'm sewing and I make sure that everything is even down here, that means my stitch will be perfectly straight. And if you've never used a sewing machine before, don't panic. It's one of the easiest things that you can learn how to do. You can learn it in an afternoon. You can learn it in 5 minutes because I made a video on it already. You can go check it out in the card. All right, so let's make this straight stitch. We are starting our stitch on this seam right here. This is gonna be the seam that's on the very bottom of our sleeve. This is what rubs up against our armpit, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off our stitch with a back stitch. And if we start off on our armpit right here, we're gonna be able to hide it and nobody's gonna see it. You can start it up here if you want to, but you're gonna see a little hump of thread right there if you were to do that. So it's just a lot easier to do it back here. That way nobody will ever know except for you and me. And take your time if you need to. Straight stitches are easy, but don't just go flying through it if you don't need to. Just take your time. So here's what we got going on right now. I can't pull this, oh there it goes. I can't really pull this out very easily. Sometimes your fabric can get caught down there in your feed dogs. Those are the things that move forward. See those little teeth looking thing down there? Those teeth looking things down there? Your fabric can get caught in there and you can see all this extra thread that's being pulled out. For instance, see, I lost my thread up top there. So I'm just gonna have to rethread this really quick. It happens, not a big deal at all. I'm glad that it happened right now because it might happen to you and you'll be like, wait, what? His tutorials are always so flawless and they go so well. Well, no, mistakes happen. Oh, okay, check this out. So I have a snag. That's why I lost my thread just now. So spools of thread will come with a little slit on it just like that. It ended up, when it spins like that, it got caught right there. So it ended up snapping my thread and making things get all bunched up down here. So we're just gonna take that off. And an easy way to avoid that is to just flip it around. So now the little notch, the little slit is on this side so that things can just move smoothly. Okay, we are rethreaded and we are ready to rock and roll. But check this out, look, see that angle right there? See how it's not straight? Again, that's an easy way to make sure that we have a straight stitch. So I'm gonna, boop, move that over just a little bit there. Okay. Perfect. A little bit more. Hang on. Now, again, go slow. Just take your time. It's just a straight stitch. It's really easy to do, but take your time. I missed this pin back here, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. And it slid off just a smidgen. So you're going to lose your stitch tension when you raise your presser foot, but that's okay. We just want to raise it just a bit. Okay, perfect. Watch my seam guide. That's how you're gonna be able to make sure and tell that this stitch is straight. I've already had a couple issues, but that's because I'm not paying attention as much as I should, so I'm gonna make sure to pay better attention. There we go, much better. Take your time, go slow. The reason why you see me pulling out some of these pins, but then leaving some of the other ones like earlier on, I didn't put them all as uniform as I should have on the very edge or even right up here, but as long as I just make sure to look here and not add my needle while I'm doing this, it's gonna be straight. See? Do you see that? See how I'm getting to the underside now and these lines are gonna be perfectly lined up? That's the power and the magic of your seam guide. It's amazing. I wish more people talked about why this is important and what it is and how it can actually help you sew in a straight line. Man, that would have saved me a lot of time and headaches in the beginning. Boom, okay, there we go. Now we're gonna back stitch it in. Presto. So this is what we got. We have a straight stitch on here that looks exactly like it would when it came from the store because our stitch is 2.5 millimeters in length. Now I kind of switched up on you a little bit. See how the shirt is see-through? You can see how that is 1 full inch, but whoa, SD, your stitch, it's all the way down here. It's not up here. Well, I kind of switched it up mid-tutorial. You don't necessarily have to follow my lead or follow my steps, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to give it kind of a more sleeker appearance. So I moved the stitch down by about 1/4 of an inch instead of having it up here, because when I was looking at my original shirt, which I'll show you in a second, it just looked kind of bulky. Since my stitch is down here, it just makes the sleeve look a little bit smaller and just gives it just a sleeker appearance. Now let's go turn some chinos into some shorts. What do you think of my pants?
What the?
You like them?
What did you do to it?
You're wearing them like that, right?
Do you like them?
Yeah. They're so short.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
My girls weren't a very big fan. They're like, Dad, what's wrong with you? Why are you so weird? We want to figure out, well, how long do we want our shorts to be? And this part can be a little bit tricky. The reason why it's tricky is because we have to tread carefully. If we make these shorts too long, it's going to look so stupid. We're going to be wearing like safari shorts. Like we're going to be like traveling through the Serengeti showing people giraffes and rhinoceroses and hippopotamuses. Hip hop? Hip Hop Anonymous? And if they're too short, well, SD's gonna be wearing some booty shorts up in here. We want to avoid both of those scenarios, and the easiest way to avoid that scenario, or both of those scenarios, is, well, we gotta measure. How are shorts measured? This is how shorts are measured. This middle seam right here that runs by the Franken beans, that is appropriately named, well, the crotch seam. And when you go shopping for shorts, what you're gonna notice is that they're gonna say things like a 9-inch inseam, or a 10-inch inseam, or an 11-inch inseam. Well, that's just the distance down your leg from your crotch seam down your inseam. Got it? I got a pair of shorts from Target that are just a wee bit too short. The inseam, it's like 9 inches and it looks totally fine. I like the shorts a lot. They look fine with a t-shirt, but if you try and like make it a little bit more professional as opposed to more casual, they're just too short for that. Ends up being all like business up top and casual down below. So instead of 9 inches, I'm going to do about 9.5 inches. But whoa, hang on a second. What are we working with down here? What about this cuff? See, at the very bottom of your chinos, well, it's got all this extra stuff down here. This is your stitch. And then if you look on the underside, you've got more fabric under there. Well, what about that? We have to add that to our measurement too, right? Yup. So the easiest way to do that, and well, the only way to do that, to be honest, is we're going to take our measuring tape and we're going to figure out what this length is. This length is 1 inch. We have to keep that in mind. Don't let me forget that we got to add 1 inch to all this stuff that we got going on right here, right? Okay, good. So now let's take our measuring tape and we're going to go up to the crotch seam up here and we're going to go down, what did I say, about 9.5 inches? Okay, yup, well that's right there. Now we have to add on another inch, so we're going to do 10.5 inches. And now we're going to take a sewing pin and we're going to mark that place right there. Boop. Hardest part is done, is figuring out where we want to make this line. Now that we actually know where we want this line to be, we can cut it now, right? Well, we want it to be a bit more precise. So for this step, you can take anything at all. You can take a book, you can take a ruler, you can take anything that's straight and is hard and like won't lose its shape at all. Get your head out of the gutter. I'm going to use the instruction manual for my Brother ST371 sewing machine. No, that's not a shameless plug. I just had it sitting right over there and I saw it and I was like, well, I don't feel like going upstairs to go grab anything. So I'm so lazy. What we want to work with and what we want to do is we want to make this line straight across here, right? Yes, we do. But don't panic. It's a lot easier than you think that it is, because if we make it, let's say we make it like that. See, it's kind of crooked. We can work around that because we're tucking under the fabric. We're working with an additional inch down here, and that additional inch is going to be tucked under, and we're going to put a straight stitch right through it. So if it's crooked, maybe not that much, but if it's crooked like that, we can work around it by tucking it in evenly, and then nobody will ever know that I had like, I don't know, that I was like shaking when I was cutting it or something. I don't know. And now that I have this line here, I can get that instruction manual out of the way. And what we can do is we could also work with that. We've got some Tailor's chalk here. I don't use Tailor's chalk pretty much, well, ever. If you want to use something like this and you want to draw a line on here, well, you can do that. Watch. We can just do something like that. We're going to put little marks right where these sewing pins are here. And now that we got a good chalk mark there, we can remove our pins. Their job is done. And with this line here, don't panic, don't worry. Remember, this part, it's getting tucked under. So despite the fact that I have some lines on my pants here, it really doesn't matter at all. Will you do me a favor and will you make a tally of the number of times that I've said crotch and tuck under in this video? The only thing that I'm missing is duct tape, because, you know, you take the duct tape and you get it. And now, the moment of truth. Time to cut these bad boys. Whoa, hang on. I'm gonna make sure again, you're using fabric scissors, right? You didn't just go in your utility drawer to just go grab some random pair of scissors you think you can just be cutting through your clothes with it, right? Do not do that. I can't stress that enough. Make sure that you use quality scissors for something like this. Otherwise, your fabric is gonna get all frayed, you're gonna have snags, and you are just not going to be happy. And you're gonna say to yourself, well, why didn't I just, I don't know, why don't I just go buy some shorts? So here we go. Now that we made this cut, what we want to do is we want to flip our shorts, or our pants / shorts, inside out. And since we have an additional inch down here, we want to come up by an inch because we're going to fold this part down here. We're going to fold it up. So let's grab some sewing pins and our measuring tape. And we got 1 inch right there. So I'm going to put a little pin there so that I just know that that's where that spot is. And now I want to fold up this part right there so that it hits right at that pin. And now I can remove this pin and I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it back right at the top right there. And then I'm going to make sure everything is nice and even, and I'm going to continue on with these pins. Just keep pinning up all the way around. When you get to the side seam on the very side of your ports here, you want to make sure that everything is nice and flat. You don't have any wrinkles in there, because it's really easy to get things kind of wrinkled up with that seam there. Right here, I came down a little bit far. Yeah, it's not gonna be an issue, but if I continue on with this angle that I'm working at as I'm pinning this, it's gonna get worse. So I'm gonna pull up or kind of move that down just a bit so that everything is nice and even. A little bit more, nice and even. Perfect, there we go. And before you move on from this step, take it and kind of pull it and see if you notice any imperfections as far as your pinning goes. Everything should look nice and flat and uniform when you pull it. You shouldn't see any wrinkles. You shouldn't see any kind of imperfections like that. If you do, that means your fabric isn't in the right spot and the pin is holding it in that incorrect spot, so it's pulling your fabric down, causing some wrinkles. But this looks pretty good. And take a look at the orientation of my pins too. Take a look at the direction that they're going in. Make your pins look like this, because it's going to save you so many headaches when we go and put a straight stitch on this bad boy. If you want to use an iron to iron that seam down to make sure that it stays in place, you can totally do that. It's just not something that I did. It's not something that I normally do, but if you're comfortable with doing that and you want to do that, by all means, absolutely do so. And that being said, let's go ahead and do that now. So I've got my ports all ready to rock and roll here on the end of my sewing machine. Your sewing machine has an attachment on the end of it that's actually removable, so we can put our ports right on the end of it. But normally what you use that part for is to do things like hem jeans, which we've done on this channel before, and we've done it one of two ways. One, we did the professional hem method, and we did the, I can't give the middle finger, we did the new hem method, both of which are down in the description. They're both really easy, so go check them out. We're doing a straight stitch, 2.5 millimeters. The reason why we're doing it at 2.5 millimeters is because that's the length of a standard stitch as you would get it from the store. We're also using a universal needle, 80-12. We're using polyester thread, and we're going to be starting our stitch right on this seam right here. The reason for that is because we want to use a back stitch to lock in our stitch before we start going, and we're just going to be able to hide it right there. Nobody's going to know that it's there besides you and me. And the 1.7 million other people who've now watched this video, because, well, 1.7 because you shared it on all your socials and you shared it on Reddit, right? And last thing before we get going on this bad boy is this is my seam guide. I'm going to make sure that my pants are lined up with the seam guide. I'm not going to be looking at the needle. I'm going to make sure the edge is lined up with these lines. That's going to make my stitch perfectly straight. And take your time. There's no reason to rush through this. Just go slow. So this is the finished product right here, a perfectly straight stitch all the way across. We came into a little bit of an issue right here where the seam right here, it kind of caused me to rotate my pants ever so slightly when I made the turn here. So it kind of tucks down and it dips up just a hair. But the good thing about this is the inside inseam right here, so nobody in a million years would ever notice. The only way anyone would ever notice something like this is if they were this close to my pants, and if somebody was this close to my pants, we'd be having some issues. Now for finishing this seam down here, as you can see, it's already starting to fray on us, but that's okay. I'm not gonna touch this because I like it the way that it is. You can put a zigzag stitch over the edge of this to finish it off, so that's definitely an option if you want to finish this seam. Iron everything down when you're done and you will be just good to go.